Joining us now on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he is the head coach of the number one ranked Purdue Boilermakers. He is Matt Painter. Matt, hello, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you got a big one coming up this weekend, the inaugural Indy Classic down at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I want to get to your team and where they are right now in the season to date in a second, but how good does it feel to get you and your guys at Gainbridge Fieldhouse for a neutral site game?
Well, obviously, we had, the setup before, which was really ideal. That was great for us and great for the state of Indiana, and it's too bad that it went away. But we want to keep, trying to play in Indianapolis. It's hard because now, like this is, are we going to be able to keep things going with different teams coming in each year and doing different things? And so we're looking at a lot of different options and stuff. But, we thought this was great. Obviously, we have played Davidson in Indianapolis before, and now being able to play this game with Fletcher and Foster Lawyer being able to play each other was pretty cool.
Yeah, was that part of it, a little bit of it, the intrigue of brother on brother there?
Yeah, you're trying to, get some help. You got a third party in there. And so, you're trying to just, get quality opponents, play in Indianapolis. And then when that kind of came up, organically, we jumped on it.
Yeah, and Sports Corp doing stuff around here is always really good. I mean, you can count on something being classic as the Indy Classic will be Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it. They've done a great job.
That's Matt Painter joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline again. Davidson and Purdue coming up on Saturday. Well, I'm going to go back to Nebraska if you don't mind too, because you talked about it after the game. It's tough to shoot the ball like that and still get away with the win. That was one of those games, Matt, where I think you're going to look back and go, wow, this was a signature moment in our season because of the way that you survived, got a win, and then got the hell out of Dodge. I mean, that's going to make it extra special.
Yeah, no question. We missed a lot of shots. We were in really good position. Our concentration wasn't very good in the second half, and even in overtime. We had some, just some plays that you like to have back, and missing layups, missing front end of 1-and-1s, wide open threes. But we couldn't get a rebound there at the end of the game. They had 4 offensive rebounds in one possession, which you could call the most crucial, possession of the game, and we still were able to get the ball back. But there was a lot of learning moments there where we lose our concentration, we don't focus, that now we can get better from and still win the game. We were very, very fortunate to win that game.
I want to get back to that second to final possession you're talking about, and it seemed like that they had 6 legitimate chances. And I don't know, you and I both come from the same line of what we love growing up in basketball. The only thing that I could think about was when Moses Malone used to put it up short purposely to pad his rebound stats. I mean, that was an incredible series right there.
The first shot of it was off the side of the backboard, so you can't blame guys when that that kind of squids out of there, and they get the ball from that after it hits, it ricochets off the corner of the backboard. But then after that, they had one bad miss, but the other ones, they were just quicker to the basketball. You got to be able to get the basketball in that possession. We don't match up in transition one time late. They get a wide open shot. Our one guy doesn't want to rotate because he's on Tamanagi and he's played so well. And so we stay home on that, which I totally understood. But we just had some plays where it was just total lack of concentration, and we just have to do a better job. You understand about the missed shots. A lot of people, they overreact to missed shots. When your execution's pretty good, you get what you want. You get an open shot and you miss it. Nobody's trying to miss a shot. You're cool with that. You just got to keep grinding and keep defending and playing hard and figure out a way to win the game.
Yeah, it reminded me of that Florida State game in a sense where guys from Nebraska, they started out, shooting, and they continued to shoot it well. Those are the games that concern me, where a team that maybe hasn't played up to what it thought it was going to be. Florida State was kind of like that. They just kept making shots, and shots that maybe wouldn't be what they normally would make. I think it's even tougher to survive a team that's kind of zoned up as they were shooting the basketball, especially in that second half, to keep pace with you guys.
Yeah, in those games, you would rather have it that way because you're more open than people just staying with shooters and stuff like that. But then after you miss a handful of them, I always compare it to Star Wars and the walls coming in. You just start to feel it. And I'm big on those guys in terms of if they pass up open shots, we're going to say something like, you got to take your open shots. We're not putting anybody out there that can't shoot. Take your open rhythm shots and just be process-based. Don't be results-based. Fans are results-based. Be process-based. Do things the right way. stick with it because the percentages said it's going to work out.
It's Matt Painter with us. You guys this week voted number 1 in the nation. What do you tell your guys about that, about some of the notoriety and the pats on the back they get? And I know that was that way a year ago. It was short-lived. But what do you tell your guys in a situation like this?
Well, that's what one of our guys talked about when we found out yesterday at the end of practice. He talked about how short-lived it was and how it was kind of a remote emotional roller coaster. And there's no doubt there's a burden there. Tom Izzo texted me the other day and said, it's definitely a burden, but it's a good burden. It's something you want. It's not something like, hey, man, this is going to be tough for us. It's like, no, this is something you should embrace. But also, whatever got you to those positions, it's like a game, right? You're up 14 with 14 minutes to go. Like whatever got you to that point, you want to continue to do that on both ends of the court. Whatever has gotten us to this point, we have to be able to continue to do that and just keep playing to our strengths, but keep getting better. And they get that, but it's also something that you have to go through and be able to, be productive on our end and do everything in our power to put ourselves in position to win.
He is Matt Painter, the head coach of the number 1 ranked Purdue Boilermakers. Boilermakers Davidson, the inaugural Indy Classic coming up on Saturday. Zach Edey, we talked right before the start of the season, and we'll get into a couple of things here, but he goes from a year ago, I believe, playing an average of 19.5 per game to where even before that Nebraska game, it was around, 4 or 29 or somewhere in that neighborhood. Did you think he was going to have that type of conditioning in him to be able to withstand and play at a high level that longer or that much longer than he did, for example, a year ago?
Yeah, without question. He didn't play the minutes that he did before. When he first got here, we got into some real tough matchups with him. In his second year, obviously, him and Travion were there in the first year with him. And then the second year, then obviously those guys just kind of split in time because of their value, and they can only play that position. So, he's never really had that issue. He's kind of working into things with this being a 6th year of organized basketball. And I try to compare that. I played in organized basketball when I was 5 years old. So, my 6th year is when I was 11. And, if you just keep that in perspective, he's on the come. He's going to get even better. He's playing harder. He understands things better. He's a better passer. But he gives a good effort. He's always had pretty good stamina. And so now he's just getting the opportunity to kind of grow it. It's tough for me because the people in his position, Caleb First, Trey Kaufman, Mason Gillis, they're all really good players. So everybody's like, oh, man, he gets 30 minutes. He gets to play. And now those guys got to split 50 minutes somehow. And no matter what we do, one person's always left out in the cold. Now with Mason being out, we actually finished the game small other night because of their ability to move and shoot the basketball was giving us some issues. So, we can go a lot of different ways. But, when someone's playing that well and rebounding the basketball that well and doing all the little things and playing without fouling, it's really hard to take him out of the game. Obviously he's played really well here in the first 10 games.
Also we talked about the whistle that he has received in the past compared to what we have seen so far. I'm assuming everybody's happy with that whistle to this point, right?
Yeah, you still have moments. There's still things that happen in the game. He made a pass in the Nebraska game, and as a turnover, and you go back and they hit him on the arm, and that's why the ball, dies halfway. There's still some. They face boxed out a couple times in Nebraska. It didn't get called. They face boxed out a couple times. They did get called. I'm not going to complain about anything because we got a very generous call at the end of that Nebraska game. Yeah. Very, very fortunate. But as you go back and you look through and you watch the whole game, I always say that to our players, don't magnify the last play. Don't magnify play. You're going to get a call here and there. You're going to get one that goes against you. It's the way it is. It's everything that happens throughout the course of the game. Value every possession throughout the game, and you'll definitely put yourself in a better spot.
Hey, Matt, when was the last time you were happy with an anticipation whistle like that?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while. So he gets into different situations because of his size. What I don't like about it, I don't like how rules are set up. It's like the flop on the guy taking a charge. It's I don't like the rule because coaches tell players to take a charge. So you got somebody who's trying to do something, which is a basketball play, then they get a flop call for it, and it's really hard. Well, then they got the cylinder call. And so, now they'll come out where someone will elbow somebody in the head. They'll go to the monitor, and they'll be like, well, he was in his cylinder first. Well, somebody's in Zach Edey's cylinder about 40 to 50 times during the game. So I don't like the call because you can't call it every time. If you're going to put a rule in that says, okay, when this happens, we're going to call this. You can't be selective with that. What's a foul in the first minute? It's a foul in the last minute. And they really get up into a space because they have to. And you understand that. But then you can't have this, this cylinder rule that you keep calling because people just crowd him and take up a space. So we got to get some better consistency in what we're doing.
How often do you have to calm down the fearless freshmen you have in your backcourt?
They're just going through some things, that they've been put they've put themselves in great positions. Like they've earned everything that they've gotten. Nothing's handed to them. And, Braden learning to play with the shot clock a little bit and kind of understanding different scenarios because he has the ball in his hand so much. They're both really confident. So sometimes they'll go make a play and you'd be like, man, they've been struggling a little bit here. Then they'll go make a great play. And, that's something you just don't see for young guys. You normally see more doubt. But there's a lot of examples, a lot of different scenarios that have popped up that, you just learn from. And as you go on, there's nothing like game experience. And, they're learning on the fly a little bit. But both of them are very competitive, very intelligent. They both play to win. Both are selfless. So they have a lot of the same qualities as players and people.
Yeah, and you look at it seems like that Fletcher steps into one. I mean, he's always going to step into it with confidence, don't get me wrong, but even more so at that level, you have seen that, I think, evolve over the early portion of the season. And Braden, I mean, you can't slow him down. He goes at it about as full throttle as anybody can, I think.
Yeah, he's that, quintessential point guard. And so at times with those guys that are that way, that can see so much, sometimes they forget that they're a threat too. So really trying to encourage him to take his shots, look for his pull-up, get his catch-and-shoot threes, still attack the rim looking for his too, not just always attacking the rim looking for other people. But he does such a good job of setting people up and really whipping that ball around. Fletch is a good passer also. Doesn't quite have the same jets where he gets by people as much as Braden. And then Ethan Morton can really pass the basketball. Zach's a very selfless player, and he'll pass it out of the post. So anytime you do that and people say, hey, man, I really like your team, that just means they play hard and they pass the basketball. Fans love seeing people share the basketball and play the game the right way.
It's Matt Painter, the head coach of the Boilermakers, the inaugural Indy Classics coming up on Saturday, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I want to get to Davidson with you in that matchup in just a second. But you talked about this. We talked about this at the beginning of the season. Is it tough to give out clock to guys that that deserve it, but maybe because of the matchup they're not getting as much as they thought? Or is everybody seemingly happy when you're playing at the level of collegiate basketball in which you guys presently are?
No, you're never completely happy, and rightfully so. Like, I don't want people that play 10 minutes a game to to be like, okay, I'm just going to play 10 minutes and that's cool. I want them to fight every single day in practice and try to put themselves in a better position, but also be professional about it. I think that's where you got to get young people to understand that, hey, you got some people in front of you here. Now, you could help yourself, if you get mad or you blame people, you do different things. And that's what is so important for the people around a player. If the people around a player are encouraging them to be positive, listen to coaches, keep practicing hard, put in extra time, keep your nose clean, all those good things, you're really helping that person. If you're telling them that, they're getting screwed over, there's a problem, he doesn't like you, you just get into the whole stuff that young people kind of go through with people that have never been a part of it. It's impossible for people to speak on something when they're not here. And so even though if you might know basketball, I always say that just because you have the ESPN package doesn't make you a genius.
Right.
You're not there every single day for 2 to 3 hours. You don't see what's going on. And once the season starts, you've been competing June, July, August, September, October, November, you've put in a lot of time. When the games start, it's really hard because the practices aren't as long. They're not as hard. You're getting ready for the next opponent. You want to be fresh for those games, and you can't move the needle as much. You got to move the needle when you get those opportunities to play that 10, 12 minutes. Now you play well in your role. Now you help yourself, and then you get more minutes, and now you understand what's going on. So the knowledge is so important. If you got to know what you're doing. And if you've been through it before and you don't quite know what you're doing, now you worry about that as a coach. When you haven't been through it and you're young, it's a little different because now you got to just keep learning, you got to keep growing. But once you kind of get some things figured out, you can't go backwards. We can't relearn this. We took the class, we mastered the class. We can't look at it 6 months later when the new season starts like, you've never seen the material before. You got to know what the hell's going on. And we got a lot of knowledgeable guys. We got a lot of guys that have been selfless. They've really helped us. But we also got some guys on our bench that are eager, that want to prove themselves. And I really like that.
Well, and I was curious about this because, we see the game situations, but where is more of your gauge of trying to figure out who is deserving of playing time, of clock? Is it in the practice time that you see where we don't, or game time situations that we see?
It's both. It's both. There's some people think it's one or the other, but it's just the totality of, and you got to have a good way about you. You got to have a competitive spirit about you. You have to have a good attitude. You're just going to help your team that way. And the guys that do that come off the bench, that keep that attitude, that are ready and because they want to start and play 30 minutes, and that's hard, especially when young people, start over you or they play more than you do. That's a real hard thing to swallow. But you have to be able to do it. And I pride myself in being fair. And then some guys, you get to that point and then you might not like your role. And that's hard. I think you see a lot of that with the transfer portal. A lot of kids aren't transferring to win. A lot of kids are transferring for the role that they want. Well, is that the role that you want and you're going to win with that role? And sometimes it's relative. Like someone says, man, if you would just give me a chance, I would do X, Y, and Z. And you're saying, oh, so I should play you instead of Zach Edey. I should play you instead of Jay Ivey. Should play you instead of Travion Williams. It's relative. There's other people there that are competing against you. And if they establish themselves, now you got to fit yourself. And we've talked about this before. It's making sure that you're honest with guys, and they say, well, how do you think you're going to use me? Well, if you become one of our top 2 or 3 scorers, here's how I'm going to use you. But if you're not, I don't run plays for our 6th man. I don't run plays for our 3rd guy off the bench. I run plays for Zach Edey. I run plays for Braden Smith. I ran plays for Sasha Stefanovic because he proved when he was open he could make it, and he proved when he was covered he didn't turn it over and he could get the ball where it needed to be. So sometimes you can run stuff for guys, and if they can score, great, and they're open. But if you run stuff and then they're not open, are they going to do crazy stuff? Are they going to, make bad passes, take bad shots? So it's that trust, and trust is a big piece of the basketball, equation. Can you be trusted to defend late in the game? Can you be trusted to execute a play late in the game? And that trust comes now when you start to get that trust and you build that and you play well. That's when you see guys really take off.
The whole transfer thing, and I sound like an old fart saying this, but it's just now there's no accountability. All right, I don't like this, I'm going to move here. I don't like that, I'm going to move there. And that's where we are right now. And I'll tell you, accountability is becoming increasingly more difficult to find when it comes to sports.
Well, they grabbed a lot of variables to me that don't make sense. And, they want a lot of the same from this sport to that sport to that sport. And I think you have to do what's best for your sport, whatever. And you got to understand, in Division I, 99% of them don't go to the NBA. You got to just take a step back. And I understand that's your dream, to go to the NBA. And nobody has taken that dream away. And you're allowing all this movement for what? Are we, in the whole, in the masses, are we doing better for the student athletes from an education standpoint? And are we doing better for them from a basketball standpoint? And I think once those numbers start to collect here in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, as we kind of get through some of this in a cycle, I think we're going to see that those numbers aren't going to be the same. And that's really sad, because in leadership, you stand up to the powers to be and you do what's right for the student athletes. And I don't feel like that was done in this part. And there's a lot of different arguments. They're trying to say all the sports can do it. Now all these kids should be able to do it. And you're like, well, at the end of the day, we're not trying to have them have a great basketball career as much as we're trying to have them have a great life. And you've taken basketball as a vehicle, no different than somebody going to the Army who got into trouble. That was what used to happen a lot. Guys would get in trouble. They go before a judge. They'd say, well, here's the deal. You can do 6 months in the county here, or you can go to the Army and get your act and clean up. And it starts their life. But it's that discipline, right? It's that discipline of somebody holding them accountable that now gives them the discipline. I always talk to our guys about it. The more discipline you have, the more fun you have. And just that's basketball. When you get discipline, you get freedom. If you don't have any discipline, you can't have any freedom as a player. It just doesn't work that way. And so there's a lot of things that get thrown around by a bunch of people that don't coach basketball and don't deal with guys. But at the end of the day, when somebody is one of your former players and then they struggle, you're there to help them. Like that's your role as a coach. Like you're there to help them when they're 30. You're there to help them when they're 40 when something goes on. But what about the kid that played at 4 schools in 5 years? He's been loyal to nobody. He's just hooped. That's great. It's a pickup game. Go play at the Y then. But this is life, man. We had a chance to, lock him in, and he struggled, and now we battle through adversity, because what's going to happen with these guys when they go out into life and they hit adversity? You can't transfer in life all the time. You got to be able to sit in it at some point and work through some adversity. And I don't agree with it whatsoever. And I do like people that there are some times when you have to be able to transfer. There's a bunch of examples of positive transfers, but they said they were going to do a one-time transfer, and now they're letting people just go whenever they want, and they changed it, and I just don't believe it's the right thing.
You know what, too, and I for one, I would have probably made bad decisions, maybe, I guess, when I was younger, given some of the chances these guys have. But at the same time, there's always something about looking back and that gratification you get for being able to get through something, being able to charge through something, get through adversity, get through situations that you didn't think at the time was healthy or good for you, but you got through it. And, man, there is a high level when you get older of gratification for surviving and getting through something like that.
No doubt. You're facing it. You're always facing it. That's just the way it is. The way to get through something is just to keep facing it and keep battling it. And you don't like it. Nobody likes it. You want to run for the hills. We all want to run for the hills. But at some point, when they go through this, it really helps them. It really helps them. They might not like you as a coach or whatever, but at the end of the day, you hope that they respect you. But once they become in charge, or they get married, or they get the boss for the first time, some things start clicking. I thought my old man was a fool until I was about 30.
Yeah.
I thought Gene Cady was a fool until about my 3rd or 4th year of coaching. I started to realize some of the things that he did was pretty intelligent. You just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Then once you start to go through life and you start to get into some grinders, in a lot of different scenarios, you realize the people that came before you were just more or less trying to stop you from making the same mistake that they probably made at your age.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Matt Painter's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Before I let you go, Davidson, the matchup you have in the inaugural Indy Classic at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Saturday, what do you think? And I know, you're watching a little bit of video right now on that team. What do you think about them?
Right. Well, they're going to stretch you out a little bit. They got some interior guys that can step out and shoot the basketball, obviously. Foster Lory is a very good player, averages 20. Their center can go inside and outside. Miniga is a good player, averages about 16 points. So it's Bob McKillop's son is now the head coach, and so they have a lot of carryover there. They have an assistant that was there for a long time that left. That was a head coach that's back. So they have a lot of tradition. They have a lot of the same ways, before with Coach McKillop was there. And they're just a really good team. We played them in Charleston. They just have a really good program and how they defend with a team defense, and they run some really good stuff on the offensive end. So this is going to be a good challenge for us. We just got to stay connected and keep getting better.
Twice, I believe, right? Didn't you guys beat Curry once upon a time years ago?
Yeah. They also, it kind of gets left out that Bob was really trying to schedule up, with Steph Curry, and they were on a worldwide tour. And we called them at the end of their worldwide tour, and they also called us after, Duke beat us pretty good here at Mackey Arena. So the human behavior of the game really helped us, and I think it really hurt them with how many people they had to play and how much they had to travel before they played us.
Hey, one more quick thing before I let you go. How much, besides the winning and the good fortune you made for yourselves in Portland, how much did those particular days and games do for your team and its growth?
Well, I think just the confidence that it built. You go into it, you're ecstatic about beating West Virginia. You don't know if you're going to beat West Virginia, and that was a tough game for us. And then being able to play Gonzaga and their tradition and their talent, and with a great coach, and same thing at Duke, with all their talent, and it's tough. And we didn't really play that well offensively at times. But I thought we played hard, and I thought defensively we made some strides while we were in Portland, and we stuck together, and we had different guys step up. But there's no doubt that gave us some confidence. And now, a lot of times when you fail and we haven't lost yet, things get real pretty quick. And we just haven't got to that point where we've had that loss. We almost had one, but just trying to get them to learn while we're still winning some games here. You got to keep learning. You got to keep getting better. And, winning will make you comfortable. It'll make you relax. And it's kind of a subconscious, thought. And as a coach, you really got to keep them on edge and stay with them while you're winning. You want to build off of it, but you also you're making mistakes. And I always talk about this. Now, you're doing good things when you lose, and you're making mistakes when you win. Obviously, the extreme can get pushed a little bit depending on how much you're winning by or how much you're losing by. But you got to keep that in perspective as a coach and, just keep hammering on the positives, especially when you've lost maybe some close wins. But also there's some negatives out there. And I thought there was a lot of negatives, especially at the end of that game, that we got to get better at. And, hopefully we can do that here in practice this week, getting ready for the game on Saturday.
And the Sports Corp does a great job of putting together, again, the inaugural Indy Classic is going on at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Saturday. The Boilermakers and Davidson, I think Illinois State. And Michael Lewis, hanging around with the Ball State first-year head coach as well down there. So that should be one hell of a day of basketball. Matt Painter on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It is always a pleasure. I kind of feel bad when I actually talk. I mean, we need you to talk the entire time. I feel like that I'm wasting time when I open my mouth here. So you're always really good to us. Appreciate it. Hey, I appreciate it, man, more than you know. We'll do it again soon.
All right, man. See you. Thank you.
You got it. It's Matt Painter on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Seriously, every time I open my mouth, I go, wow, I should just let